After a brief discussion, they agree to follow Mr. Lee to his apartment, with the promise of safety and food on their minds. As they carefully make their way to Mr. Lee's apartment, Joon-woo and Yoo-bin keep their guard up, watching for any signs of danger. The city streets remain treacherous, with zombies wandering aimlessly, drawn by any noise or movement. They follow Mr. Lee through back alleys and side streets, avoiding the main roads where the undead tend to gather. After a tense journey, they arrive at the apartment building Mr. Lee calls home. It's an older structure, slightly damaged but still intact. The front entrance is blocked off with makeshift barricades, and the windows are covered with heavy curtains to keep out any light that might attract the zombies. Inside, the apartment is dimly lit but surprisingly clean. Mr. Lee wasn't lying, there are supplies here. Stacks of canned food, water bottles, and other essentials are piled neatly in the corner. It's the most food Joon-woo and Yoo-bin have seen in weeks. For a moment, they both feel a sense of relief. Maybe, just maybe, they've found a temporary sanctuary. Mr. Lee smiles warmly as he gestures toward the supplies. "Help yourselves," he says. "I've been living alone for a long time. It's nice to have company." The tension in the room seems to dissipate as they begin to lower their guard, grateful for the chance to eat and drink something other than stale crackers and water. Mr. Lee even offers them some soup he's heated up on a small gas stove, and despite Yoo-bin's lingering suspicion, the need for sustenance wins out. They accept the food, their hunger overriding the nagging voice of doubt in the back of their minds. As Joon-woo and Yoo-bin eat, they begin to feel a sense of calm that they haven't experienced in days. The food is warm, the room is quiet, and for the first time, it seems like they've found a place where they can rest, even if just for a little while. But something feels off. Yoo-bin notices that her limbs are growing heavy, her vision blurring at the edges. She glances at Joon-woo, who is blinking rapidly, trying to stay alert. It's then that Yoo-bin realizes what's happening. The food, something is wrong with it. Her instincts kick in, but it's already too late. Her body feels sluggish, her muscles refusing to respond the way they should. She tries to reach for her weapon, but her arms feel like they're moving through water. Across the room, Mr. Lee watches them with a strange, unsettling smile. His once kind expression has turned cold, and his eyes are devoid of any warmth. "I'm sorry," he says softly, his voice almost tender. "But this is the only way I can survive." Yoo-bin's heart pounds in her chest as she fights to stay conscious, but the drug is too strong. She slumps forward, her vision fading in and out. Joon-woo, too, is struggling to stay upright, his body betraying him as the drug takes hold. Mr. Lee steps forward, calmly taking away their weapons. He moves with an eerie calmness, as if he's done this before. Joon-woo struggles to stay conscious, his mind reeling as he tries to understand what's happening. Mr. Lee begins talking, almost casually, as if he's explaining a mundane detail of his day. "You see," he says, "I've been doing this for a while now. Luring people in, making them feel safe. It's the only way to survive in a world like this. I can't fight the zombies myself, and I can't outrun them. But they're drawn to people, fresh people. And that's where you two come in." The full horror of Mr. Lee's plan begins to sink in. He doesn't just intend to rob them, he plans to use them as bait. With the zombies distracted by fresh victims, Mr. Lee can continue to scavenge and survive. He's been sacrificing others to save himself, using their lives as a shield against the undead. Yoo-bin, despite her weakened state, glares at Mr. Lee with hatred. She tries to speak, but her words come out slurred. Joon-woo, barely able to keep his eyes open, feels a surge of panic. He can't let this happen. Mr. Lee drags Yoo-bin toward the window, where he begins removing the barricades, preparing to throw her out into the street to attract the zombies. Joon-woo knows he has only seconds to act. Summoning every ounce of strength left in his body, Joon-woo forces himself to stand. His limbs are heavy, his head spinning, but he refuses to let Mr. Lee win. He grabs the nearest object, a heavy metal candlestick, and stumbles toward Mr. Lee, who is too focused on Yoo-bin to notice. With a burst of adrenaline, Joon-woo swings the candlestick with all his might, hitting Mr. Lee in the back of the head. The older man lets out a grunt of pain, dropping Yoo-bin as he stumbles forward. Joon-woo's legs nearly give out beneath him, but he doesn't stop. He strikes Mr. Lee again, this time in the shoulder, sending him crashing into the table. The man lets out a snarl, his once calm demeanor replaced by fury. He lunges at Joon-woo with surprising speed for someone his age, grabbing the younger man by the throat. Mr. Lee's face is twisted in rage, his eyes wide and filled with desperation. "You think you can stop me?" he growls, tightening his grip on Joon-woo's throat. "You think you'll survive out there without me?" Joon-woo gasps for breath, the world blurring around him as Mr. Lee's fingers dig into his skin. His vision starts to fade, but he refuses to give up. Using the last of his strength, he brings the candlestick down on Mr. Lee's arm, forcing him to release his grip. Gasping for air, Joon-woo stumbles backward, clutching his throat. Mr. Lee staggers, momentarily disoriented from the blows to his head and shoulder. The older man's twisted survival instincts have pushed him to the edge of madness, but Joon-woo can see that Mr. Lee is wounded and weakening. Yoo-bin, still woozy from the drugs, manages to regain some control of her body. She forces herself up on her elbows, watching the struggle unfold. Her vision is hazy, but she can see Joon-woo needs help. Summoning every bit of strength she has left, she reaches for the metal spear she had earlier, gripping it tightly despite her trembling hands. With a loud grunt of effort, Yoo-bin throws the spear toward Mr. Lee. It misses its mark, but the clatter of the weapon hitting the floor distracts him just long enough for Joon-woo to deliver a hard punch to his ribs. Mr. Lee groans and falls back, giving Joon-woo enough time to grab the spear from the floor. Panting heavily, Joon-woo stands over the older man, the spear held tightly in his hands. Mr. Lee, now fully aware that he's losing, tries to crawl away, his face contorted in panic. "Please, Mr. Lee," gasps, his tone shifting from anger to pleading. "You don't understand, I had no choice. I'm just trying to survive, like you." Joon-woo hesitates for a moment, the weight of what he's about to do bearing down on him. This man had tried to kill him and Yoo-bin, had planned to use them as bait for the zombies. But despite everything, Joon-woo still feels a pang of sympathy. After all, they were all just trying to survive in this horrifying, twisted world. But there's no time for mercy. Yoo-bin, now sitting up, her voice hoarse but steady, calls out. "Joon-woo, don't hesitate. He'll kill us if we don't stop him." Joon-woo knows she's right. With a final look of determination, he brings the spear down, striking Mr. Lee hard in the chest. The older man gasps, his eyes widening in shock before he collapses, blood pooling beneath him. His body twitches for a moment before going completely still. For several long seconds, the only sound in the apartment is Joon-woo's labored breathing. His hands shake as he drops the spear, the adrenaline slowly leaving his system. He glances over at Yoo-bin, who is struggling to stay conscious but manages to give him a nod of approval. Joon-woo rushes to her side, helping her sit up properly. She's still weak from the drug, but her determination keeps her from collapsing. Together, they rest against the wall, trying to process what just happened. The air feels thick with tension, fear, and the lingering remnants of Mr. Lee's betrayal. We have to get out of here, Joon-woo says between heavy breaths, his voice hoarse. Yoo-bin nods, though her body still feels sluggish from the drugs. He might not have been alone, or there could be more zombies coming. The grim reality of their situation sets in. They may have survived the betrayal, but they're far from safe. They quickly search Mr. Lee's apartment for anything useful, supplies, weapons, anything that could give them an edge in the fight for survival. As they gather what they can, Joon-woo glances back at Mr. Lee's lifeless body. He feels a swirl of emotions, guilt, anger, sorrow, but he pushes them down. There's no time for reflection. Survival demands action. Just as they finish packing up their supplies, a sudden sound from outside catches their attention. A low, guttural growl echoes through the building, followed by the unmistakable shuffling of zombie feet. The noise from their fight must have drawn the infected to the apartment. Yoo-bin stiffens, her eyes widening as she tries to shake off the effects of the drug. We need to move. Now. Joon-woo helps her up, and they make their way to the door as quietly as possible. But it's too late. The first zombie appears in the hallway, its decaying face twisted in a grotesque snarl. More follow, their dead eyes locking onto Joon-woo and Yoo-bin. The two survivors exchange a look of pure terror. They're too weak to fight off this many zombies, especially after the ordeal with Mr. Lee. They need to escape, and fast. Without wasting another second, Joon-woo and Yoo-bin bolt for the back of the apartment, hoping to find another exit. The zombies, sensing fresh prey, let out haunting moans as they give chase, their footsteps growing louder and faster.